Welcome. My name's Chris Scott, and this podcast was originally recorded for the UK Wine Show with the WST Level 3 in mind. We've re-edited this podcast for the WST Level 3 podcast now, so I hope you enjoy it. Hi, I'm here with Greg Haye from Peregrine Wines. How are you, Greg?
Very good, thank you. Nice to see you both.
Excellent. We're recording here in your wool shed with a few starlings in the background, so you might hear a bit of noise.
Yeah, well, it's a natural component of life in a winery area, so a little bit of chitter-chatter goes on in the background.
So what we're going to be talking about today is, well, Otago is a general region, but you've been in Otago making wine for quite a while. Do you want to just give us a quick overview of how you landed up here?
Came down to central Otago at about the same time a brother of mine did, which was 1986. And he'd just come back from Germany with a winemaking degree, and was looking to establish a winery vineyard down here, which was pretty much a whole new region. And one of the reasons we actually looked at doing it in Central Otago was back in 1986 there were only 40 wineries in the country then, and there's now about 580, I think, labels.
Yeah.
We felt that we were on a pretty good thing here because of the wineries that did exist, there were 10 in Marlborough, and we felt that even though that was closer to our hometown, that was actually quite crowded. So we decided that we better not go there because we could be wrong. So we thought we'd actually come and try somewhere where there was no sort of benchmark to say this is what Central Otago wine should look like, taste like, and aromatics-wise. So we thought we'd go and try it where no one could actually say that that wasn't a very good example. So with all the confidence of youth, we set up what was Chard Farm back in 1986.
And Rob's your brother, he's a winemaker.
Yeah, that was his angle was the winemaking, and I looked after the viticultural side of it.
Yep, so that's your outdoor activities. How many vineyards were here at the time?
There were 4, and they were kind of what you call more of, I suppose, garage-esque type operations. There were 4 small producers who were recognised as being the first pioneers, I suppose, of Central Otago, mainly the Ripon Vineyard
in Wanaka.
Beautiful, probably the most photographed vineyard in the world, definitely New Zealand. And Gibston Valley,
quite successful,
very popular, sort of as a tourism venture as well. And then we had a little small one called Taramea, which was unfortunately in the wrong location, which got sort of frosted out of existence after several attempts, and then another one called Blackridge over in Alexandra.
Yeah,
but they had other day jobs.
He used to be the most southerly vineyard, didn't he? Or is he still is?
Yeah, probably
still claims it.
Still qualifies the most eccentric, but definitely the most southerly. Good old Verdon. But but they had other day jobs, and that was the wine industry at that stage. And prior to 1986 was more of a hobby, I suppose. Passionate hobby people, but when we started up Chard Farm, there was no plan B. It kind of had to work, and it was all borrowed money. And luckily, the bank knew as little about the problems involved with the wine industry at that stage because there was nothing.
As you guys,
they knew probably slightly less than us, but not much. And so they luckily lent us the money, happily at 22% interest rate in those days.
Oh, crikey!
So it was a battle, and pretty much lived off eating rabbits, which prevailed in those days. So got thousands of rabbit recipes if anyone wants any. Had a milking goat and a vegetable garden, but that was pretty much it for 4 years until you started getting any return coming back in. So.
And how much did you plant up?
We planted 2 hectares the first year, and that doubled Central Otago's production. So
really,
it went from 2 to 4 basically.
That's pretty small. That makes you dominant producer, really, didn't it?
I felt king of the patch at that stage, but still had nothing to show for it for a long time. But they were just posts and wires in the ground. But no, they were. It was a good pioneering sort of a thing to be involved in the early days. But yeah, it was a tough road to hoe, but good to do it because it set you up when it was never going to get too much tougher than that, really.
And Chard Farm, I quite like Chard Farm. We used to taste a lot of their wines in our tastings, so I know the wines quite well, or at least the Pinot quite well. Yeah. Why did you leave Chard Farm and set up Peregrine?
I've been doing that for about 10 years, up until I got to about 1997, 98, and I was thinking about going for a change in direction, and I'm not quite sure. It was a combination of lots of things, really. I just wanted to do something a little bit different, so I went and got my helicopter pilot's license, and I did that for a year flying, and I was going to go down that track of actually doing that full time. But then I actually decided I liked wine as a product, for lots of reasons. Couldn't afford to buy it, so I thought I'd better get back into making it. So, and I just like the industry, and also really like Queenstown / Central Otago as a place to live. You can't live down here and not have a kind of a job. It's about the only place in the country where there's no unemployment benefit. Yeah. So it was start again from scratch. So I decided I'd start again, and then started up Peregrine as a brand in 1998.
And that was by yourself, or?
It was by myself originally, and I've got a couple more shareholders involved in it now. It was based, after 10 years through Chart, I had a pretty good idea of what worked in Central Otago viticulturally, as far as sub-regionality went, and the advantages and disadvantages of different varieties and different clones planted on various slopes and aspects and soil types. So I decided if I was going to go again, starting Peregrine, to go again relatively quickly, so I decided to spread the vineyards out.
Okay, and you've got vineyards now dotted all over Central Otago?
Yeah, we source fruit from 12 regular vineyards, but sometimes up to 18 different sites by pulling in parcels which become available if they're what we're after. Yep. So the majority of them are in the Gibbston sub-region and also in the Cromwell Basin. Would be pretty much an even split.
Do you want to just go through what the main sub-regions of Otago are?
They kind of developed historically. Gibbston is, the main four are the Gibbston, Cromwell, Wanaka and Alexandra basins. Gibbston is the highest elevation, altitude, I suppose, and then you go down into the Cromwell Basin.
What altitude's Gibbston at?
It's about 360 metres of altitude. It's closer to the Southern Alps as well, so it's the more westerly of the regions. Yep. So it has a slightly higher rainfall because of that, just because it actually gets the effect of the billowing clouds coming over.
And Gibbson's, when you're in Queenstown, a lot of people may be familiar with Queenstown because it's a big tourist mecca in Central Otago. A lot of people can fly into it as well from Australia. Gibbson's coming out of Queenstown towards Cromwell, and it's the area as you're coming out, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically probably more famous for the bungee jumping bridge, which is actually at the start of it than a lot of other things. But that's what people would associate with the area. It's the bungee jumping bridge that started off that craze is pretty much located at the entrance to the Gibbston sub-region. So it's a very defined area, which is great. Like there's no who's in and who's out. You're either in the Gibbston or you're not. Yep. And there is some confusion. A lot of the time it actually gets called Gibbston Valley, but it's not. That's a wine brand in its own right. Yeah, sure. So Gibbston is the name of the area historically, and it's defined by a shared group of cliffs that come in by the bungee bridge and another area down the far end called the Nevis Bluff. Yep. And it's you're either in or you're out.
You're close to the Southern Alps. Yep. Bit cooler.
Yeah, it is a little bit cooler just because you're elevated. Like the other regions, you drop down in elevation as you go down through the Kawarau River, which drains Lake Wakatipu, which is the lake at Queenstown. Yep. So it drops down. So you get the cooling effect from the altitude, but you also get the cooling effect from any clouds that have dropped their rain on the west coast side. The clouds still billow over the top. Yep. So they just don't stop, a dead stop. They kind of keep on progressing, but there's no rain left in them.
Yeah, they've been pushed up a bit higher.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, if you look at it, you've actually got another area that people may associate with on the same latitude as Milford Sound, quite a well-known, beautiful landmark across the other side. Well, Milford Sound is about 30 miles as the crow flies that way. They have 11 metres of rain per annum, or 35 feet. They're only 30 miles that way, but we get into 22 inches where we are here. Yeah, it's quite a huge decrease. Yeah, and then you go another 30 miles to the Alexandra Basin, and you're down to 6 inches of rain.
Okay, so if you follow the road out of Queenstown, you hit Cromwell, and at Cromwell you can either turn towards Wanaka, and that's what's that area called?
That's generally known as the Lowburn area, or the Lowburn designation, I suppose. There's vineyards left and right of the main road, but pretty much uniform as far as their soil type and rainfall and that kind of stuff. They're basically elevations about exactly the same as well, sitting on the lake shore.
What, about 220 metres?
Yep.
Okay, and then yeah, it's not too bad.
You must have one of those altimeters. You must have an altimeter in your rental car.
And if you head right, you're heading into Bannockburn.
Yeah, you go into Bannockburn / Kenmure. So you've got two little. Basically, Bannockburn's probably what the area is recognised, but there's also a split of a sub-region there due to soil type between Kearmue and Bannockburn, yeah.
Oh, okay. And Bannockburn has got, probably in the UK, most people would have known Felton Road, Mount Difficulty, even Olsen's,
yep.
yeah.
Those three would be the bigger known ones, but there's also some other wineries who source some fruit from there as well.
Yep.
But they'll be the three better knowns. Then you get over to the Kearmue, which is on the other side of the bridge.
Yep.
Slightly less clay in their soil. Yep. And you've got things such as Akarua, Carrick, Bald Hills.
There's two other regions. There's the Bendigo, which is on the other side of the river, towards Terrace Ways. Yep. What's that like?
That's probably the latest one to be developed. That's up the head of Lake Dunstan, so that's probably the most northeast of any of the vineyards. Very hot and dry. Two different aspects to it. There were some vineyards planted on the flats up there, but there's a lot of them actually planted on the slopes and in amongst the hills, little rocky outcrops up there as well. Very picturesque, but very hot. Typically very lazy soils who have never been asked to do anything in their life, apart from accept rabbit droppings, and not much moisture to break them down, but now they're actually starting to work. So a lot of potential as a region up there, definitely. But it's very warm, reliable.
What about frost issues?
That's an occurrence you've just got to be wary of. It's there's a perception that because we're seen to be an alpine area, like we're the only continental climate in the country, everyone else is maritime, being a stone's throw away from the sea. People associate with the fact that there's actually 4 ski fields within sort of 20 minutes drive from where we are here at Peregrine, that you must associate that with frost. But because a lot of people don't associate, or that they not aware that that's exactly what it would be normal in parts of Italy and France and Switzerland, that those regions, grape growing and ski fields, are actually like partners.
It's not because people get off the slopes and they want a glass of wine.
No, that's a big help when it comes to retail sales during winter. But it's the main reason is it's very hot here in summer, so you actually get like 35 degrees is quite a regular occurrence here in summer, but you get down to minus 15 in winter.
Yep.
So somewhere in the bit there, you can be susceptible during the crossovers between autumn and spring to the likelihood of a frost. But it's just our terrain saves. It's like we're surrounded by steep hillsides, and the colder the air gets, the faster it moves. So it just comes rolling off down the hills and into the river systems, and the river systems take the cold air away down through the river, and it stops it building up.
I've seen a lot of windmills on the way in.
Yep.
Is that just to keep the air moving? Or?
Yeah, it's just to help speed it up. There's different types of frost. You get inversion frost, and you get sort of ground frosts, and any help you can do to try and pull air down where it's actually slightly warmer above helps. So there's people have wind machines in place. Some people have overhead irrigators, like flippers, to cover the vines in ice.
Yep.
Which is becoming more and more popular. It sounds crazy to cover your vines in ice to stop a frost, but it's actually the formation of ice creates heat.
Yep.
So that actually covers it like in a duvet, and you just got to hope your pump doesn't break down, because if your pump does break down, they're covered in ice, then you've got a major problem. But you've just got to let the sun melt the ice during the natural process of the day, and no damage whatsoever. So that, or helicopters. We're also a region which is blessed because of the activities around here, heli skiing and just touring and that kind of stuff, that you probably got more helicopters per head of population than most places in the world.
You said you've got your helicopter license. Do you get up and have a wheel around?
Oh, I have done in the past. It's actually decided it was far more enjoyable up there than with a heater on. Listen to the radio than it was actually on the ground with a frost thermometer deciding if it was actually freezing. So yeah, it's far more pleasant to be up there than it is on the ground. Yeah.
One of the things that's been coming out of Otago recently has been cheaper Otago Pinots. When I first started buying Otago Pinot, you were paying 20 quid a bottle for good Otago Pinot, and I've seen quite recently, some coming in around 10, 11, 12 pounds a bottle now. Still got the same top wines, but you've got these second labels coming in. What's the idea behind that?
There's probably each company has a different philosophy about it, and I can't speak for every other company what they do it, but I can probably explain why we do what we do.
Yeah, sure.
So we have the main focus as Peregrine, and we have the second label as Saddleback. Mm-hmm. And the reason we do that is twofold. Initially, when we were going through a growth phase with the winery, and I wouldn't call it naivety, but you were probably a little bit naive, that you just felt that everything should go into Peregrine because that's what you were making. Yeah. And then after a wee while, you get far more in tune with the vineyards and also the style that you're trying to make. And you can't always, it's not a formula, you can't always go and say this is everything can possibly go into that style to make peregrine. And once you've set the track as to what that style is, it should become synonymous with peregrine as a certain style and a certain quality.
Yeah, you're looking for consistency as well.
Because, when you're talking about, say, like the peregrine Pinot Noir in the UK is probably around £17.99, people have an expectation that to a lot of people is a luxury item, or it's a pretty special wine, and it should deliver something quite unique. And so the idea was that what we'd do would be, because of the seasonal variations you get in Central Otago, like some seasons are quite hot and some are quite cool. For us, one of our main drivers is consistency throughout the price ranges. And within the region, over, say, like 10, 15 years, you get huge variations from one vintage to the next. Like some years the Cromwell Basin's really hot and some years the Gibson's too cool. So once we got to a stage where the volume of peregrine as a brand Pinot Noir was increasing, we decided that you had to take these seasonal variations out of it, because you couldn't go, well, this is a really different year, hope you enjoy the wine, it's still £17.99, see what you get.
Yep.
So we decided that to come up with a second label which would actually take care of the anomalies of the vintages.
Yep.
But as opposed to trying to make a cheaper wine, we actually treat it all the same. So we treat all the vineyards the same, and all the grapes the same, and all the winemakings the same. And then we don't make the decision as to what goes into peregrine or what goes into saddleback until we've seen it in the barrel, maybe a month out from bottling. Mm-hmm. And then we go through and try all the barrels individually and go, okay, well, this one's a peregrine style barrel. It's dark fruits, it's plums, cherries, and blueberries. This one's more the raspberry, strawberry direction. It goes into the saddleback style, but it allows you to maintain the integrity of both labels and keep them at different price points.
Yep.
Without actually expecting the consumers to play Russian roulette with their money.
Some people like the idea, they say a wine is a sense of place and time, mm-hmm. particularly at the higher end. People accept a certain level of variation from year to year as long as the quality is there.
Yep, and I totally agree, and I fully understand their philosophy, but for me, it was more about consistency. I mean, they are still getting an essence of what Central Otago is all about. Like these, for example, we're talking Pinot Noir here. Those Pinot Noirs exude Central Otago under both those labels, the peregrine and the saddleback. But what I am guaranteeing is that I won't give them a wallop of a different seasonal variation where they go, that wasn't what I expected. Yep. And that's what you can get. Like, to me, some years the Cromwell Basin can be so hot you end up with almost like, it's just a power. You end up with such a powerful wine, but you end up with none of the elegance and the finesse that you can get out of the Gibston. Yeah. And then some years the Gibston can be too cool, so you'll need to pull more of the sort of ripe spectrum out of the Cromwell Basin. But the Gibston has a characteristic on its own that just adds a certain amount of elegance to the wine. So the seasonal variation for me has a far greater impact than the effect of one site. So people can say, I really like this idea of trying the wines off that site, but the seasonal variation has a far greater impact than the actual soil and the climate will.
What sort of alcohol levels are you getting at the Gibson? Because I've noticed some of the Pinots, they're at 14%. They're quite big alcohol wines.
Yeah, no, they are, and I think that's more of a factor of age of the vines for me. For example, the Peregrine Pinot Noirs probably 2 or 3 years ago were probably 14.5% alcohol, but because when the vines were younger, you almost needed that to actually get them physiologically ripe. You had to get to that flavour spectrum, and so 3 years later, we're already down to 13%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're on their way down as the vines get older.
So if I'm looking at an Otago Pinot and I see the alcohol level's quite high, does that mean it's probably going to be a younger wine, or could it be just a seasonal variation?
I would say it could be possibly to do with a younger vine, or it could be a winemaking thing, but I would have thought it was actually more of a younger vine methodology, or it could be a cooler season. But the problem here is actually not getting the vines ripe. They're not getting the grapes ripe. I mean, it's actually getting them ripe at the right pace. Yeah. Like some years we actually start picking before Hawke's Bay does, and they're actually, and in other years we'll be 4 weeks behind them. Oh, okay. So it's the pace that ripening occurs, and that's why I like to have the vineyards spread out, different sub-regions, because it just gives that ability to blend depending on the season.
All right, I think we'll wrap it up there, Greg. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks very much for the interview.